Hey, sorry, I forgot to start recording this for those of you at home. Okay, what's the constant proportionality, Annie? 28. Fabulous. Is that what you were going to say, Jewel and Kal-El? Yeah? Okay. I would agree, yes. So looking at this table, we can decide that the constant of proportionality is 28. Now, what that means is you're going to go from gallons to miles, you're going to multiply by 28. Knocking on the door for fun, apparently. All right. Next time I'll be faster so I can catch him. All right. What?
Can I do it?
Yeah. Get him, Trent. Okay, so to go from this column to this column, we have to multiply by 28. And that makes sense, right? We're saying that we get 28 miles per gallon. That's our unit rate, our constant of proportionality. And to get from here to here, we have to multiply by 28. Okay? Well, if you remember, when we have a table, that first column is always your x column. The second column is always your y column. So what we're saying is we're taking our x, we're multiplying it by 28 to get our y. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's where that equation kind of comes from. Now that we have an equation, we can use this to solve any problems involving this, like let's say that this is a car and this is the gas mileage that they're getting, okay? So let's say that you put in 12 gallons of gas. You can multiply by 28 and find out how many miles you can drive with that amount of gasoline, okay? So the equation is super useful. Now I want to kind of generalize for all situations so that we have that in your notes. So I'm going to write out the equation. Y is equal to kx. So the k in this situation is our constant of proportionality. Could they have come up with a longer word? I mean, really. Proportionality is so long. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you guys can abbreviate it totally.
Wait, but can we put like unit rate instead of constant of proportionality?
As long as you can remember, it's also the constant of proportionality. Okay, now our x and our y, we can refer to them a couple different ways. My favorite is input, output. Okay, so to find out how many miles you can drive, you first need to input how many gallons of gas you have. So I call this the input and this the output. It's like a machine. You put in the gallons, you find out how many miles you drive. Okay. Another way to refer to our x and our y is by using the terms independent and dependent. So let me, bells, honestly. I could really do without all the bells going off in the middle of class. Okay, let's talk about this. If we look at this, our y depends on our x. How many miles we can travel depends on how much gas we have. So we're going to call the y our dependent. It depends on the x, okay? And that makes sense because your gallons does not depend on how many miles you drive. You can't say, oh, I'm going to drive 300 miles, so automatically I'm going to have a certain amount of gas. No, that's not how it works, okay? The amount of miles you drive depends on how much gas you have, okay? And because of that, because your x doesn't really have to depend on anything, we call it the independent. Okay, so I just wanted to introduce you to the different ways that you can address your X and Y. Input, output, independent, dependent, okay? And we're gonna be using this format for all of our proportional equations. So let's take a look at a few more examples. Now you can write an equation, all you need is the constant of proportionality. And we know how to find the constant of proportionality for any situation. Table, a graph, if you're just given a situation, you can find the constant of proportionality, which means you can write an equation, okay? So let's take a look at an example here. Let's say that they didn't even give you a context. They just said, well, if K is equal to 2.5, write an equation. So all you have to do is plug in 2.5 for K here. So the equation is going to be Y is equal to 2.5x. It's that easy, okay? When you're doing your homework tonight, this is how I want you to put it in the answer checker with no spaces, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at a situation now. So let's say that Connie makes 250 copies every 5 minutes. Okay, so we're given a situation here. Well, you guys are experts already. You know how to find the unit rate, which is the same thing as the constant of proportionality. Kara? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so it's 50. And let's talk about it too. So we know that the constant of proportionality is your y divided by your x. And you really have to identify, like, hey, which one is your dependent, which one's your independent, which one's your input, which one's your output, okay? Well, if you look at this situation, the number of copies you're able to make depends on how much time you have, right? So our copies are going to be our dependent, which is our y. And honestly, I think you guys probably already intuitively are doing that, okay? And really, time is never dependent. It's always independent, okay? The number of copies you have to make does not decide time. Time is just time all on its own, okay? So like Kara said, this is going to be 50. So our constant of proportionality is 50. And now we can write our equation. It's as easy as just plugging 50 in, like this. Everybody following me so far? Yes, awesome. Okay, so we've done a table. You've done it just given the constant of proportionality. You've done it given a situation. What other representation are we missing? Chris? Graph. Let's do a graph. So many different ways of looking at proportional relationships, right? Okay, let's talk about hours of sleep per night or per day or whatever, however you would like to view it. Okay, so we're gonna have our days down here and the hours of sleep you're getting over here. Okay, which makes sense, right? The amount of sleep you get depends on how many days you're sleeping, okay? So let's put our scale here. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. We're just going to use a scale of 1 across the bottom. And then our scale on the left side, our y-axis is going to go by nines.
How many days did you put?
I put 8, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you have a couple on there, you're fine. Okay. Okay, you probably don't even need to do math to figure this out, but if you need to, just pick any point, divide your y by your x to get that constant of proportionality. You can also see it right here too, because remember your unit rate and your constant of proportionality, same thing. Okay, so what is the constant of proportionality? Say it out. 9. Fabulous. So we know just by looking at this graph that the constant of proportionality is 9. So what's our equation?
Y equals 9x.
Fabulous. Okay. Awesome. So now you've seen how to write an equation given any type of situation for a proportional relationship. So I'm going to let you guys get some practice on your homework. Remember, when you're putting it in the answer checker, it needs to be in this form with no spaces. Okay? Let me know if you guys need any help.
So I put reciprocal table is complex.
Somebody else did that today. And this is complex. So just information. Here's the table of contents for you.
Dollar for dollar. No matter how much you can earn. Extra cash. Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. Only 21 mil sample. Limitations apply.
Please keep your pickles on your bank account deal, because even though you don't want them on yours, your friend wants them on theirs, and they would be not to share. Order ahead on the McDonald's app and get 2 things for just $6. Like a Big Mac, quarter pounder, nuggets, or filet fish.
May vary. Single item at rate.